All right, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Ty's Take. And in the last episode, we were talking about space vacations. So I think, hello, Ty. Ty is here. I
Yes.
forgot my introductions. Ty is here. Dave is here. Hello, everybody. Um, I think we should continue because I'm sure you have a few more questions about this concept of space vacations. It's a great idea. I think it is a great, the concept of access for everyone, basically, which is what space vacations would be. Everyone gets a chance to go, would be a great way to draw attention to
Hmm.
space. So let's continue with that if you have any more questions
Yeah.
about space vacays.
Well, yeah. So, like, what would that look like? What would that even be like? What do you think?
I I mean last in the last episode we talked about a space balloon that's coming up. That'll be the first like easy way to go, not technically all the way to space, but high enough that you have the effect of being like up above the earth, far above the earth. Um,
Right.
and God, I just thought I can't I can't make myself be brief. I need to work on
Too
this.
much of a mind-blowing
Much of a
concept for
mind
you
blowing
to
thing,
make
but I
it.
just thought of something that I want to say. I'm going to try to make it as quick as I can with the balloon because you think of
Okay.
space. You think of space as floating, right? Because you float in space, really. Like there's no
Right.
gravity. But the fact is, there is gravity. Earth is huge. Gravity doesn't just simply go away when you're like a little bit away from it. When you're in orbit, gravity is still very much there. What happens is you're going around the Earth like this, right? You're orbiting the Earth so fast that you're always
Right.
falling but never hitting. So that's what an orbit is. You're basically, you shot something. If you don't shoot it hard enough and far enough, what does it do? It goes up like this and it curves back down to Earth. If you shoot it really hard and really far, like with a rocket launch, you get it up into orbit, some form of orbit, it goes up and it falls, but then it's falling around the Earth and it goes like this. So essentially, when you're on a space
Ah.
station, when you're in the space shuttle, which is no longer around, but when you're up there in space, you're falling, so you feel like you're floating. You are floating, but it's not because there's no gravity. So
Hmm.
with a balloon doesn't shoot around. A balloon just goes straight up and straight down. So when you go up and you're in the balloon up high, like in space, quote unquote, you don't float because you're
Hmm.
still feeling gravity. So I should say this to anyone who's going to be taking one of those balloon trips. You won't be floating in the balloon, in the capsule. You'll see space. You'll get all the views. You'll have the whole thing, but you'll be completely to the floor just because of gravity. So there you go. That was 3 minutes. My description of gravity, floating, orbit, and so forth.
So then, space vacation looks like
In a balloon,
gravity.
it would look like sitting in a really high definition movie theater because you'll have your wraparound windows and you'll see the whole Earth from orbit, almost like an IMAX. But you'll be inside a capsule, feeling the effects of gravity. If you go into
Cool.
orbit and you get shot in orbit, then if you're on something, a space station, for example, that's going around and
Hmm.
around the Earth in orbit, then you'll be floating inside the space station. So you'll get that, floating astronaut effect, which I think a lot of people would want to experience. There are other possibilities that I think will come next when it comes to putting people into space and having an actual space vacation. And that would be things you might have seen like in science fiction movies, like a big ring space station shaped like a ring
Okay.
that rotates. So the space station is in Earth, in orbit, going around
Hmm.
and around the Earth, but the space station itself is rotating like this. So if you're on the
Oh.
outside edge of the ring, you feel the pressure of the ring rotating, basically like you would on if you get on a merry-go-round or anything like that, you feel the outward pressure, right? So when you're on a space station, you get stuck to the floor. So by having it spin, you can create the effect of gravity. And so you can like have normal gravity and that sort of thing. As you go from the outer ring into the center, which is not rotating like this, it's just kind of turning like this in the middle, that's where you would be floating. You'd be
Hmm.
floating in the middle. So I think it'll be something like a hotel where you have rooms and a lot of your dining and obviously dancing and anything like that that you're going to do at a hotel is going to be done on that outer ring. And then if you want to have the fun floating experience, you go into the middle and you float.
That's cool.
That would be one possibility for a type of a space vacation in orbit. And the funny thing is,
That's cool.
we have the technology to build that. Is actually we have mostly what we would need to do that. It would be hugely expensive, and it would take
Really?
a very concerted effort. And there's a lot of materials to get up there in order to build that thing. But it's very doable in terms of like the technology and the knowledge to do it. So I don't think it would be
Interesting.
that far in the future that we have bases like that. They may not initially be for tourists, for space vacationers. They'll be for other purposes, I'm sure, you
Hmm.
know, in space
Yeah, I
laboratories
mean, like,
or whatever.
yeah. And with everything we're trying to do, like that feels kind of, like decadent. Like maybe a
A
little,
little bit, it would be
we
a
should be
little
more
bit
productive
decadent
than trying to go for that as like our most
as
immediate
as
step.
an
I feel
objective.
like
Yeah,
we should be
I
more
do agree.
productive, shouldn't we?
Yes, I do agree. It would be, I
Yeah.
mean, creating a space station for space vacations, I don't think would be the first reason that we create a space station. But in order to get to that point, we have to be productive. We have to produce, we have to create the space stations for some purpose. Like I said, I think it would be for either national use, the US, would have some purpose for it. Maybe it would have some military purpose. Maybe it would be like some in space lab or research station or something like that. It would have some more practical purpose at first. But at the end of the day, why are we here? I mean, I guess that's a little bit too much of an existential question. Why are we here? That's philosophy. But the truth is, what are we doing here? What's the purpose of, what we're doing? We're producing, we're advancing, we're coming up with new things. We should be enjoying ourselves. And one of the ways we enjoy ourselves is
Success.
success.
Hmm.
Honestly, that's true. The biggest way we find joy is in accomplishing things, right? But it's also nice to take a vacation once in a while. It's also nice to do something fun. So I think it is a little bit decadent to go for a space station for that purpose only. But once we have used and created these space stations for other purposes, more useful purposes, I think that'll be what we do next. And people will start vacationing.
Okay. So then, do you think people that could actually be an advantage? People going to try and take these space vacations to actually get us on that route, then
Yeah,
could be actually an advantage we could take.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's a great by by having people go to space and spend time in space, we learn things. Just like, doing anything new, we
Hmm.
learn from it. So once we get up to the point of having people taking, vacations, being able to go live on the moon, for example, and we could kind of roll vacations into civilians living and working on the moon, for example, or living and working for periods of time in space stations. Anytime we have a chance to observe
Hmm.
people and have them live in those environments, we learn from that. And all of that sets us up for our space future. These people, in a way, will be almost like pioneers. And what we learn from that, we can then take and apply to the next step and the next, again, the whole idea being that gradient progression of advancement that we've been talking about and that we're going to keep talking about. So
Yeah.
be ready. If you're going to keep watching these episodes, expect us to keep talking about, the advancement into space, because that's what we're all about here. And I think Ty is
Prepare
starting.
for that level.
That's right. We're going to the next level. We're leveling up. I think Ty is starting to get the idea of how this is going to work, and I sometimes can see the wheels turning. They're like, okay, I know how I'm going to get these people motivated, and I'm going to get them activated.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, I think we have a grand future ahead, and we will continue in these episodes. So until then, until the next time, we will give you guys a little salute and see you in the next one. Bye. There you go.